Last 5 seconds. Ready, start. Respected Madam, I respectfully submit this suggestion has come from the Honorable Member in the context of his dilation on the power of money on the functioning of the political parties. I respectfully submit these two issues are totally different. The influence of money on the electoral process in the country and the influence of the money on the fluctuation of the political parties. The entire speech which the honorable member of the Bharatiya Janata Party has made in support of the suggestion for election funding is totally irrelevant so far as the issue before this house today is concerned. This house today is not concerned with the political functioning of the parties. This house is concerned with the clean and fair election, with a clean, fair and free electoral process. By no means of logic can it be said that if the election funding is given by the state, this will lead to a more fair or a more free or a more clean elections. There is no causal connection between the two, and I submit this also amounts to total ignorance of the electoral history of India. I shall give only two examples. When the Swatantra Party was born, it could not be said that the Swatantra Party was short of funds. And what was its performance? In 1962 it got 18 seats, in 1967 it got 44 seats, because the politics of this country came into turmoil. But in 1971 its seats were reduced to 8 and thereafter it vanished from the political scene. Take the history of the Congress. Can you say that in 1977 the Janata Party won because of the money power? Would you subscribe to this proposition? Can you say that in 1977 Mrs. Gandhi won the elections by giving the leadership to the Congress party on the basis of money power? Those who were the persons who had the power to collect the funds, they were on the other side of the ring. They had left the Congress. Can you say that in 1980 the Congress won the elections with 350 seats under the leadership of Mrs. Gandhi, and the Janata Party was wiped out because you had no funds? I respectfully submit that this whole proposition of the influence of the money power on the electoral process is nothing but a totally preposterous proposition. Then, madam, I respectfully submit that the third thing is with regard to the registration of political parties. The momentous change with regard to the registration of political parties has not been recognized. Honorable Vice Chairman, sir, I rise to support the motion of thanks moved by my friend on the President's address. As we all know, the President's address reveals the performance and policies of the government. I take this opportunity to compliment the government for having successfully testified the indigenously made surface-to-surface missile Prithvi. I also take this opportunity to hail this government for having successfully tackled the Sri Lankan situation, for having an agreement signed between the government of India and Sri Lanka. The way India has tackled the Sri Lankan situation has again established one fact, that India is capable enough of tackling any problem pertaining to this region. After 1971, India has established this fact that in the matter of tackling any problem pertaining to this region, no intervention of a superpower is needed. It is unfortunate that some forces in the land of Sri Lanka are working against this agreement. They have not betrayed India, neither have they betrayed anybody else. They have betrayed the Tamils themselves. They have betrayed the cause of Tamils, and the Tamil people in the land of Sri Lanka have understood it. That is why Jaffna is becoming normal. That is why life is coming to normalcy. Refugees are going back and they are leading a normal life. I take this opportunity to compliment this government, particularly the Prime Minister, on whose initiative the Six Nations Summit was held and which ultimately culminated in the USSR-US Treaty on Nuclear Arms signed recently in the month of December. I also take this opportunity to hail the government for having tackled the drought situation in a very effective manner. This country, which has not received proper rainfall for the last 4 consecutive years and which has suffered heavily, managed to survive. The government could manage to tackle this situation despite the severe crisis. The government was not required to borrow any assistance or get food grains from any country. It could manage to provide support to the people because it could manage to have a sizable quantum of buffer stock to tackle the situation. This reveals that the country has made considerable progress, tremendous progress in the field of agriculture. I take this opportunity to compliment this government for having tackled the situation that cropped up in Punjab. It has tackled the problem with all determination. Although the situation has not been normal, although normalcy is yet to be restored, I am sure with the cooperation of all senior segments of our population, normalcy would be restored in the land of Punjab and political solution would be arrived at. I would like to compliment the Honorable President for having made a correct reference to the conspiracy and the notorious role played by Pakistan in the matter of creating the trouble inside our country. A reference has been made by Honorable President in his address before the member of both the houses of Parliament, but I would like to request the House and the government not to treat this particular issue in isolation. I request the honorable members of both the houses of parliament to understand the whole game and not to treat it as a specific incident. The conspiracy, the attack which is being made by Pakistan is a part of a planned conspiracy. It is a part of the bigger conspiracy, the conspiracy which has been tailored by the forces of right reaction in collusion with imperialist powers and foreign powers to destabilize this country, to destabilize this government. Sir, I would like to take this opportunity to narrate the conspiracy that has been engineered by the forces of right reaction in this country, which is age old. It has a long history. It is being done by them to jeopardize the progress of this country, to stall the journey of this country towards socialism. The conspiracy started right from the time when Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru opted for the path of socialism, started taking the country on the path of progress. The reactionary forces, for some time at initial stage, they would be able to take over Congress from within. They were trying to take over the Congress from within to protect their vested interest, to protect their own interest, and to protect their own class interests. Their disillusionment first took place in 1959 when the Congress passed the historic land reforms policy. A large section of them left the Congress to form a reactionary party. Their further disillusionment took place in 1969 when the journey towards socialism was further accentuated by Mr. Gandhi. They left the Congress and joined the reactionary forces. They understood that it would not be possible for them to capture Congress, so they decided to capture Parliament by defeating Congress. They got together, formed a great alliance, fought elections, lost the battle, and they again felt demoralized, and again they tried to do the same. Politics 1977. Sir, there are a number of vacancies, but they are not being filled up by candidates from scheduled caste for the alleged reason that they are not qualified or competent or efficient. In this connection, I would like to draw the attention of the minister to the policy of the Maharashtra government so that other states can also adopt the same policy. Maharashtra government has decided that even in judiciary there should be reservation in the matter of recruiting judges and judicial magistrates. When there is a question of promotion from civil judge to assistant judge to district judge and so on, the high courts are prevailing upon the state governments not to promote the scheduled caste judges. The Maharashtra government wants people to be appointed in the judiciary service from scheduled caste, Muslim and other weaker sections. Whenever they make such a proposal, the high courts are not paying any attention. I may recall one incident now. My respected and honorable friend happens to be the chief minister. Some years ago, he has a law minister. He turned down 3 or 4 times the proposal sent by the Bombay High Court just because it did not do any justice to the weaker sections. We want persons like him who has raised his voice against the judiciary, though I do not agree with him in what he said about the presidential form of government. I do not agree with what he said in this respect, but I appreciate his courage as then law minister in throwing away the first submitted by the High Court and saying, I do not accept it unless and until representation is given to the weaker section. There should be proper representation given to the weaker scheduled caste, Muslims and other weaker sections in the subordinate judicial services. Not only that, I have already said that scheduled caste candidates are competent and they are not less qualified, they are not less efficient than any other general candidates. You leave aside the question of giving any privilege or preference to them. Stop.